welcome back to the Pegbar Grill. My name is Sam Taylor, and with me, as always, is Tim McCourt.
Hello.
The Pegbar Grill is a podcast where we get the chance to chat to some of our heroes in the world of animation and have a drink and shoot the shit after work. This time, obviously, we're doing it over Zoom, and we recorded everything on video as well, because why not? And we put them up on YouTube, so you can watch them there on The Line Animation. Sorry, wait a minute. YouTube.com/The Line Animation. And if you're watching it on YouTube already, if you head over to our website, thelineanimation.com, you can find our podcast on there. And we've recorded about 30 other episodes with different animators over the last few years.
Just want to take this opportunity to thank the BFI Network. They actually got in touch sometime last year and inquired of whether or not we wanted to do some more podcasts where we interview some British filmmakers, and if so, they would be willing to fund it. We obviously took them up on that very kind offer. So thank you to the BFI. For those of you who don't know, they're a national lottery funded institution who have been hugely important in funding emerging filmmakers, both in the kind of animation sector and also live action. They have a short film fund which is open twice a year for aspiring filmmakers or anyone who just wants to make some short films. You can find out information about that if you head to network.bfi.org.uk. We'll also post that link in the bio below, and as well as like information to their social media accounts where you can find out more information about them and the funding. So massive thanks to the BFI.
On this episode, we got the chance to chat to a couple of guys who we've both been following for years and have been massive fans of their work. Will Anderson and Anslie Henderson. They're two animated filmmakers from Scotland. They sometimes work independently, they sometimes work together, and I've always just been fascinated about how that collaboration works, how their process comes together, how they produce such interesting short films, and it was a really interesting conversation where I think we learned quite a lot.
Yeah, it was so great talking to them. I have nothing but the utmost respect for people who continually make short films. It's something I wish I was able to do, and having the opportunity to talk to them, I think I learned a bit more about how you can accomplish that. So for any of you guys who are aspiring filmmakers, I think this interview is hugely valuable.
Thank you so much for your time, and thanks again to Will and Ainslie for joining us for this chat.
Cheers.
Yeah, so we were just saying before we jumped on this, Ainslie, you're out in the middle of Northumberland somewhere.
Mm-hmm. A big farmhouse, southwest from Newcastle, near Stocksfield, living on a big dairy farm.
There's great ice cream there.
It's good ice cream, yeah. Wheelworks ice cream. There's a plug for Wheelworks.
Yeah, nice. It is good though.
Have you been down yet, Will?
Yeah. We get the train out to, what is it, Gorebridge?
To Riding Mill.
Riding Mill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nothing like Gorebridge. Corbridge, is it?
Corbridge,
yeah.
Wow.
A few times, yeah, but like maybe 3 or 4 times during this film. I'm in Edinburgh, so I'm trapped on my own in the flat, just working away.
So do you still work in Glasgow, or you work for
Edinburgh.
a company? But you were working for a company in Glasgow, but you're based in Edinburgh, is that right?
Yeah. I do design work now and again for a company, right. ISO Design in Glasgow. But my own studio is here in Edinburgh in a place called Summer Hall, which is like a wicked arts venue. Well, there's normally loads of gigs. There's no gigs now, obviously.
Yeah. Is the festival going ahead this year?
Yeah, yes, it is, but mainly outside. You're coming, right, Ains? Because I think Becky's playing, right?
Yeah, my partner's a folk singer in a folk band called the Young
Amazing.
They've got a gig in. I think they've got one. They've got more than one. They've got at least one gig. So me and her and our little boy are going to be in Edinburgh for a while.
Yeah, she come up and we could go to some gigs.
I would love to.
Yeah. When is it?
It's the whole of August, right?
Yeah, like most of August.
So we were trying to figure out like what you guys, just before we got on the call, like what you guys' relationship is, because you don't like.
It's fucked up.
Well, we met on Tinder.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then you moved it onto LinkedIn. Now you're on Facebook.
We quickly moved on to Slack.
Yeah, exactly.
Mountain
relationship.
Yeah. And the tension's out of control.
Is there tension between us at the moment?
So, well, it comes and goes. I think it's all right. It's
I
manageable.
thought it was fine all the time.
Did you?
It's the impression I was getting.
Is it easier or harder over Zoom, do you reckon, the tension?
Oh, Zoom is great, isn't it? We all love Zoom.
I don't know. It's a funny thing. Like we had a conversation recently, Will, and you pointed out you think, because I have a little boy who's 2.5, and
I have no one.
Will's completely alone, and so I moved out of Edinburgh then. But you reckon we've done more work together since I moved away and had a child?
Yeah, I think so.
In the period before that.
I think we're more focused. Well, yeah, I think definitely between. I think you're more focused.
Right.
I'm not trying. I've always been more focused than you. I'm not trying to be a dick, all right? But you are more focused now, I think, because you have to use your time more carefully.
Yeah, sure.
So where did you guys meet? Was it at university?
Yeah, we met at art school, Edinburgh College of Art.
Okay. Yeah, I was the year above, and yeah, I remember like showing you about the department actually.
The first, can I tell them the moment that Will and I met?
Oh, fuck no, right.
In fact, there's two, because it's vague, but there's two moments that I remember being aware of Will. The first one was when I came to visit the animation department, and the tutor turned to a boy who had a plasticine head on a wooden stick and went, "Will, can you show Ainsley around the department?" And Will like showed me, pointed at a few things, but we didn't really connect then. But we were just two strangers who he had to awkwardly show me around the studio. But the first moment we really met and got to know each other a bit was Will caught me in the corner of the studio, turning there was a kind of mainframe computer that had all the stuff for the department in it, and Will found me turning it off at the wall to teach it a lesson because it wouldn't fucking behave itself. Will was like, "What are you doing?" Turning the computer off at the wall. Like, don't do that. Don't ever do that. What are you doing?
So the first time you met, like properly, he was bollocking you.
Well, he was just astonished at my lack of
it works when I do that.
Huh?
You're like, oh, it works when I do that. Like, mate, you can't do that. And it still is like that a little bit. Like, you'll get annoyed at technology and I'll be like, whoa, slow down. Don't fucking smash it. Don't turn it off at the wall. I think that's fair, right?
Well, it's just that, I'm 10 years older than Will.
But wait a minute. So when you were looking around the college, Will was already there. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's a year above you, even though you're 10 years older.
I was old. I was old. I was, I was having a midlife crisis, and I went back to art school when I was 30. And Will had just gone kind of. Did you have a year in college before?
No, I just went straight there. Just like whippersnapper, straight in.
Yeah. And so I think it's that thing. It's that slight generational shift where it's like you probably were using a computer from when you were a kid.
Not really, actually. No. I think I was just out of that. But I think maybe when I got one, I knew how to use it properly.
I was like 28, I think, when I got my first laptop.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years before I met you. So I was.
But that's even quite late, right? I mean, for that age, like I guess you were.
It is.
You must have been avoiding it to some extent.
Yeah.
Because you were like you had like a full-on proper music career before you got into animation, right?
I mean, I had a music career.
Didn't you have like a number, like top 10 single in?
I had a number
Right.
5 song.
Wow.
That's fucking that's proper career, man. If
In
you
the
got
UK
a number,
charts?
yeah.
Wow, that's mad.
That's the coolest thing. That
So not.
What was the music video for it like? Who directed it?
It
Oh,
was humiliating. It was
amazing.
so embarrassing. It was so. It was meant to be like a pastiche of a kind of sexist pop 80s thing, and I look at it now. It's just like it's just a sexist pop 80s.
Who directed it? Was it you?
No. I was just being a pop star.
Was that?
There's so much midriff in it. That's what I like about that
Oh
video.
man, I should have watched it.
Yeah, you gotta go check it out.
Don't rock those t-shirts anymore. Not got the midriff for that now.
oh, you know what I'm wearing today? Not to draw attention away from your pop career.
Do it.
Just because you said sky's the limit.
Yes.
What's that?
The sky's the limit limited productions. It's mine and Ainslie's company,
Oh right.
Oh, right.
and it's got like the worst logo you've ever seen. But we got it printed on T-shirts. But it's like, it's fucking excellent. Really.
So you guys do have like you do have a company. There is like a connection between the two of you, because I was just thinking, like, is it weird that we got these guys on the same call together because
Because they don't even like each other.
We've not spoken in years.
You look online, there's no official kind of thing joining you guys up, right? It's just
Well, we have a company together and we called it Sky's the Limit because we thought it was the worst name for a company
With Zs.
that you could imagine.
Love it.
And we like the idea that it,
do you have a website?
No, it's not really like we call them the Skies guys, and that their name's Ash and Billy, not Ains and Will. So it's kind of like a weird sort of what would you call it? Like
pseudonyms.
Yeah, sort of pseudonyms. Right.
But so there is a website and it's listed, but it's not like it doesn't describe you guys at all.
There is Sky's the Limit website. We've had a
So
couple.
basically, you've just printed a T-shirt. Is that what you're saying?
Is it like a registered company?
Yeah, it's a registered company.
So they would have to have your names on it then.
It is a limited company, and what we love is that it's called Sky's the Limit Limited. Fucking excellent. Our accountant just it was so funny just telling him that. Like, we were gonna call it Skies so it was Skies the Limited, but it was just fucking stupid.
Did this all happen during? Did this all happen during lockdown?
No, this has been going on for a long time. We've always kind of joked about it as like setting up this terrible company, like, and it was probably part of like a TV show idea or something. But then we ended up actually having to, incorporate for bigger jobs and things like that. So we ended up actually doing it, but just keeping it Sky's the Limit.
It started because we made a joke advert for Royal Bank of Scotland once, and it was just like the worst advert that you could make. It was, I think it might still be on YouTube somewhere.
Really bad.
And it was a whole thing that we quite liked the idea of, about setting up a terrible, terrible company and making adverts for people, and then just telling them, hey, we've made this ad for you, and seeing if we could get any traction from it.
Sending an invoice and see if we could get paid.
I feel like in this day and age, you just get takedowns for that stuff now.
Yeah. Well, to clear things up though, we actually each have our own company as well where we work. So like, Ainslie's making a film and that's through his company, and I'm the producer of it, and I have my company for my work. So we do a lot of work together, but we also do a lot of work separately. Sky's the Limit just for like the things that we have like a 50% stake in each.
Right.
Which is for like bigger, if we've got a film idea, a big film idea or something, we'll put it through that. That's kind of how we.
So I mean, that kind of, so like this podcast, we're doing a couple of additional podcasts, and we're actually being we were asked to do it by the BFI in Film London so that we could kind of talk a bit about like film funding, because it's they wanted us to kind of talk to like filmmakers who might I guess like be supported by film funds, or who would be interested in it. And I guess like that kind of leads on to that. Like if when you're talking about using this company in order to I guess like when you're making films together, kind of like split up 50-50, like one, is it more beneficial to do it that way rather than just having one of you take the money and then pay the other one? And then what kind of like, how do you go about film funding?
That's a good question. Well, so we're doing a BFI short at the moment, and it's going. So this is the film that Ainslie was saying is halfway through earlier. So I'm the producer. It goes through Ainslie's company, and that was a decision that we made pretty early on, wasn't it? It's that because again, you've got your own films, I've got mine, and we collaborate. But this film was very much yours. You had been thinking about it for quite a long time. You had done some development of it, and definitely going to write and direct it. But it made sense for me to produce it when this BFI thing came along. So yeah, although I am, I guess, part owner of it, it made a lot of sense to put it through Ainslie's company.
Is that for ownership reasons? So like if it was on your joint company, then you'd both have 50% of whatever the kind of like intellectual property of it is.
Yeah,
it kind of is for ownership reasons, and it's actually a bit of an odd way around, because typically it would be the producer. It would go through the producer's company.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we often have an odd way of working, and we go around unusual routes. But it was, I think, right at the start, we started it in my company, and it was one of the stipulations was you can't be the writer, director, and producer. It was one of the BFI funding conditions.
Is that why was that? Do you know why?
Well, because they think I'm guessing that it's just too much pressure for one human being. Like, I think I toyed with the idea of doing that at the start, and I'm so glad that I didn't. That they wouldn't let that happen. You know, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that. Well, you didn't really have any great desire to be producing.
No,
is this your first producing credit?
Huh?
Was this your first producing credit?
I mean, technically, I've had, like, because when we've done work, I'll kind of take the producing side of stuff if we're doing like a commercial thing. Technically producing, but in terms of like a film, yeah, this is the first like I produced and directed my previous short film, but it wasn't funded. It's easy to do that, you know, easier to do that. Yeah, this is my first proper producing credit on film, I think. But it's like, I definitely see it. It's like it's such a important thing that you have a producer and they're one step out of it. And
you would say that as the producer, though. Such an important role in the production.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's essential.
I think it's worth.
I think I've been a little cynical about, or not cynical, but I don't think I've given the role of a producer as much respect as I now think it deserves.
Because I've done such a good job of it.
You've been exemplary.
Yeah. Just changing the angle a little bit.
Are you going to show us something? You're just following the sun?
I'm just trying to get it out it's just setting. It's just a bit intense right in my face.
But I've enjoyed it though. I think I am quite organized, so it sort of has been probably quite good for both of us, like me to have learned it all. It's been a bit of a journey so far, to be honest. But yeah, things like I thought it would be just like, oh, you raise the money and then you're good to go because we know what we're doing. But it's not like that. It's like you're questioning things all the time, you know, in every way. Like, you know, the story, the characters,
I guess it's probably like we're talking around it right now, but what is the film?
It's a film called Shackle, and it's a 9-minute. At the moment, it's 9 minutes long. It's a stop motion animation that takes place all outside in the woods.
Wow. How the hell do you control the lighting for that?
You don't. I just let it go. I just kind of embrace it as part of the joy of it. Some of it's at night, so the nighttime stuff, it's a bit stiller. But I'm just kind of going with it. So you know you're animating, and then the lights kind of shifting through the trees as it's going.
So you're shooting it near where you live, then?
Yeah,
out in the countryside.
Yeah. I'm shooting it on the land here on the farm.
Wow.
It really is mad, because like obviously COVID hit, like you had started Ains, and we were kind of doing it all over Zoom. You know, the planning, because like just to put it in a bit more context, we've made this camera control rig so that we can do moving camera through the woods, which is like it's a big job getting that made by our DOP, who's a bit of a genius, Ruin Seuss. He's great. He made this rig, so it's like a technical, like, you know, uphill struggle getting that in there and moving and programmed so that you can do stop frame before the sun goes down. It's kind of mad, but but kind of great. You know, it's working.
So do you control? Do you sort of get instructed on how to kind of set that up, Ainsley, or does your DOP come down and?
He's been down a couple of times.
Okay.
He's a genius. He's amazing. He's like technically, like, it's mind blowing the stuff he's done. He's built a motion control rig, like ordering parts from China and getting little motors, and then like writing the program that programs these things, and then having the box that you plug it into, and then he's like, you know, it runs off the stop motion software, and it's all built, and he's built it all to run off like these big car batteries. Wow. So I'm lugging car batteries down into the woods and then plugging this thing, and then it's like a big, you know, dolly arm with a pivoting head and stuff moving this camera control rig, and it all runs on batteries. So,
yeah, it's a full battery shoot, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like, yeah,
it is nuts.
So remind me how long the film is again?
It's about 9 minutes.
9 minutes. And the crew is, I guess, you three then?
Yeah. I mean, we've had help from some people. We've had like a model maker.
Story artist.
A storyboard artist.
Yeah, it's pretty small though. Like, you know, all of our stuff, like our early stuff, it's all like tiny crews. This is probably the biggest one so far, really, isn't it?
How many people are in this crew then?
In all, like armature builder, model maker, we have an additional animator.
Yeah,
maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
It's yeah. Again, it's bigger than before, but.
And so is that entirely funded through one source?
That's for the BFI, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's entirely funded by the BFI.
What is the BFI's expectations of the film afterwards?
Well, their expectations are that it goes on the festival circuit, and you know, hopefully does. Yeah, it gets distributed in some way, maybe on the BFI player. They have an iPlayer thing, don't they?
Yeah, the BFI.
But it's a great thing, I think, for the UK. You know, as you know, the funding in the UK for these things is very minimal.
Yeah. So
like it really is a wonderful fund that has just opened up again, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really encourage anyone who's thinking about it to get involved. They've been great, actually.
Yeah. We're kind of nearly there as well. We're supposed to be getting done by the end of the year, so it's like we've actually been on it for quite some time.
And is that like that? Is that you guys' sole kind of source of sustenance, or are you're doing other jobs, you're doing other things on the side as well?
We've got a few little things at the moment. I'm pretty much on this all the time.
Right.
We've got a couple of writing jobs that we've done together. What else have we got on the go at the moment?
I tend to spend quite a lot of plates generally. I have more time than you in Shackle because you're obviously on the ground filming all the time. But we've got like, we're finishing our first longer film, which is just feature length.
Wow.
And that's the two of you together again.
Yeah, this is one we've been doing for a long time. So we're like,
And is that being funded?
we have minimal funding for it. We've done it on a shoestring, which isn't surprising. But it's like a non-fiction featured weird documentary sort of meta thing. It's really hard to fund. Like, God, it's hard enough to fund any normal documentary or film.
Yeah.
Like, this one's fucking weird.
Are you the producer on that as well?
Technically, yes.
Whoa.
So we have another producer, Finlay Pretsell, who's a brilliant filmmaker. Actually, he made a film called Time Trial a few years ago about the cyclist David Miller. But check it out; it's really good. He's producing. There's a company called Parcel of Rogues, which came out of the Scottish Documentary Institute, which is like this company that we have up here in Scotland that really pioneers documentary. It's amazing. But we started the film with them, and then they've become a charity now. So now we're moving over with this other Parcel of Roads, and we're like getting there, and it's really nearly there. We've got I think we're on third rough cut. Is it that right, Ains? Third rough cut.
I mean, there's been a lot of cuts.
It's been
a lot. It's been.
So is it fully animated?
No, it's part documentary, part live action shot, and then with an animated character in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of meta in that it follows Will as himself, and it took. I mean, we've been shooting it for 8 years.
Wow.
7 or 8 years.
I mean, on and off.
It's probably been 7 years, but it'll be 8 by the time we're done.
Yeah.
Crazy. So you're doing it while you're making all these other films and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All these other meta films. You were making a meta film.
Honestly,
and you were making a meta company.
Yeah.
Around it.
This one is particularly. It has a lot of layers. This film, doesn't it?
Mm.
We kind of fought it a little bit, just to give you a little more context. It's about my mother got cancer about 8 years ago in her mouth, and she's alive. She got through it.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
It was like a really, at that time when someone in your family gets cancer, you're supposed to bond and be emotionally open and just be there for each other. I just felt like it was the opposite. It gave me such a fright, and I'm sure it gave all of us. It gives everyone a fright. It gave me such a fright. So kind of just automatically started making this film about how hard it is to talk about that stuff. And me and Ains sort of wrote it, which is weird, right? Because we're writing a fiction film about not communicating properly. And we obviously, when you write a film, you write your way through it and you write your way to the end and you say what you need to say. It was kind of flawed, and failed a bit as a film. And so we tried to make it anyway because we're really.
So, sorry, this stuff's happening with your mum, and it's really intense. And you guys are talking about it, or you're also writing about it, or how does that process happen? Because that sounds like such a kind of full on
Yeah, I suppose it is full on. It's she was ill and she went through surgery, and I suppose she went through it and she slowly recovered over years. But as she was in recovery, I guess, we were we need to write this film about communication. Let's put an animated character in there that's kind of like the cancer, so we can speak for the cancer. That's kind of our idea. It's kind of it's a little cat. The film's called A Cat Called Dom. This little black cat that's it spreads out like cells in the body, but it's cells on a computer screen. So it all there was all these metaphors that kind of made sense, and we do so much shorts with that are character led, both of us. So it just kind of made sense that we were going to do this free-form dialogue based character thing that's a documentary and half fiction and totally up my street, totally up our street, total brilliant, but like flawed, totally flawed, because like, you know, we wrote it and it just wasn't right, was it, Ains? Was it? I don't think it was. I mean, we didn't get funding for it, and that's a big setback. So after some time, lockdown really, I'm kind of sat there with it, and we've got time, you know, we're all on our own, started kind of pulling it apart, and kind of eventually decided that it had to be about like admitting that we were making this film that failed. We're really resistant to that. I think we thought about that before, like, you know, years ago, didn't we? It's like, could it be a film about making a film? But it's kind of annoyed us that, because we've done that with like other shorts. So
I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like, I don't know, like I spent today looking at like you guys' individual films and trying to, and be like, you know, where, you know, what's different about you guys? Like, what's the common thread between the two of you? And I feel like Will, a lot of your stuff is films about making films.
Yeah.
And Ainslie's stuff is about like, I don't know, unpicking traumatic emotional events from your past. So it kind of feels like, you know, what you're talking about now is, or unpicking traumatic emotional events, I guess, is like,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of almost ended up exactly between the two of you in terms of what you do. I guess that's like what's strong about the two of you. Like, it feels like, Will, a lot of your stuff, like as much as it's got an emotional core, it's fairly sort of intellectual and quite meta in a lot of ways. And then Ainslie, like your stuff is like very heartfelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's bang on, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
We said this earlier, like, I'm 10 years younger than you. When we met, I was just wanting to do stuff and be funny, you know, and you were like, whoa, slow down. And we've always been, our relationship's always been a bit like that, hasn't it? I think I'm maybe slowing him down a bit now.
Yeah, maybe I'm speeding up a bit, but yeah, you're right. I think Dom does have both of those things in it. And I don't know, to answer what you were saying.
Sorry, what's it called again?
A cat called Dom.
Cat called Dom, right?
And it's yeah, I don't know. I think we thought about making it that kind of meta thing in the past, but I think the way we framed it this time is very different, because it was like, it was almost at the point of having to admit like it wasn't going to get made, because we had years of trying to seek funding, and we'd been given little bits here and there and stuff, but it was really frustrating. And I think it was like a year went by where nothing it hadn't moved.
Probably.
And we had so much stuff that we'd shot, and so much we talked about and thought about, and it was just like, and also, Will, I know how like guilty you felt about having put your mum and your dad and your family through the ordeal of, not the ordeal's a bit strong, but you know, the strain of shooting stuff with them. It's uncomfortable,
right?
And it drudges up, particularly the way we've done it. It really drudged up a lot of emotion. And Will's mum was amazing and willing and generous, and it was like to have all of that, and then to have the feeling of like, that's it. It might just sit on a hard drive forever and be one of those films that's not going to get made. And so it was the idea of like, okay, what if it was just for Will's mum? What if it was just, we just put it all together as a thing so that Will can go, look, mum, this is, we made this, I made this for you. And here it is. And this is what we tried to do. And I'm going to show you and see what you think. And it was like, right, what if we edited the film together in that spirit? And I think that was a real like glue that kind of made it all make sense.
Is that something that came from you, Ainsley?
It was kind of both of us. We knocked things.
That feels like a very Ainsley narrative to inject into it, like the emotional sort of angle of that, you know, like
just hit him right in the face with the most sentimental, right on the nose with like
No, but sorry,
Sentiment.
that was a bit of a judgment on both of you, to be honest. But I just wondered. Like,
No,
You're
no.
right. Sorry, you're right, Tim. I'm going to be like really, like, I remember the point. We were having a Zoom in, and you went, "Is it for your mum?" Which is a really obvious point. But like, I remember you saying those words and being like, "Oh, of course it is." Like
Well,
that.
it's like a rule. Then it's a sensibility, and I think it was it didn't seem like it was an idea because it seemed so obvious, because you have said in the past that, like, when you're making things, that's one of your compasses. It's like you often say, like, you can't make anything that's too wanky and pretentious, because you know your mum will go, "Fuck you doing? Come on."
I think I've probably made quite a few things that she thinks that.
Yeah, but you've got an eye on that. You're kind of making stuff to make your mum laugh. You said when you were younger, that's what you would be. You'd make something, and if it makes your mum laugh, it's like, right, this is good work.
Yeah, that is the compass.
How? Sorry, mate. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and finally, when we kind of accepted that was the new device, it was like, okay, I'm just going to speak to her. Actually, I'm not going to speak to anyone else. I'm going to speak to her. It's become this. It's finally the film that we were trying to make. It's weird and strange and funny. It's so scared of making a film about cancer that's just depressing and not useful. It's like, no, it's like, it should be laugh out loud funny and access something that's different, It's like, I think we're getting that. So
how far into doing it did you know you were making a film? Were you just shooting stuff at the beginning, or it was like really, like, because I imagine at the beginning it must have been that's like a huge decision, like something big is happening in your life, like difficult to think about and sort of know what to feel about, and to like start making a film about that in the moment sounds like a pretty I don't know, big move to make.
I think we were always thinking, I think definitely we were always like, yeah, we're doing it. And there's a sort of weird ignorance about that, isn't there? It's like, I think if I had known how long it would go on and how challenging it would be, wow, it's like, it's a hard one to answer that. I think though, because we had just made like quite a few shorts and we were on a roll, it's like, of course we're going to make another film. Let's go. Like, let's ride the wave. Let's do it. And then just like, yeah, it's just, films are a bit like, they go on, it's like they have a momentum, don't they? And it's like, suddenly like, or you're off it for a year and then suddenly you have a meeting and then suddenly it goes somewhere else and then you've maybe got some funding and then you're off. It's like, it's such a strange beast making a film.
Yeah.
Like, I guess maybe I thought it might have been easier at first. So it was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. I'm glad it failed. It's weird. I'm glad.
Do you think that you might have thought it was easier, Will, because you'd made longer shorts? I think your shorts tend to become quite long quite quickly.
Long and boring, aye.
No.
working on ways to make things as quickly as possible. Yeah.
But you'd made, Longbirds, it's long. It's like you make longer shorts. And so.
Yeah. Not being scared by that.
No. Whereas it meant for me, when I think about making a stop frame thing of like 100.
You were going shorter. It was like, wasn't it? You were getting your film shorter and shorter to like a 2-minute stems. And then, yeah. It's funny.
Can I ask, like, what is your hope for the film afterwards? Because I guess once it's done, you have a kind of like property that you can, I guess, enter into festival circuits, but you could also get distributed, or like streaming platforms are acquiring things at the moment. Do you have a kind of plan for once it's completed? Could you sell it directly online? I guess, like, yeah, just what your sort of thoughts are about how you can distribute it afterwards and what you like from it.
Yeah, that's a funny one, because of the change in like realizing it's for my mother. I do genuinely feel like I just have this weight off my shoulders, that it's like, it's honest, authentic, and I want to show it to my family and just for it to be like there forever. Like that is honestly like a thing that I really feel good about. But also, I'd love people to see it, you know, and that's just, you're always at odds with that. Like, it's such a shame to make a thing and then no one sees it. Like, it happens with shorts all the time. Even like shorts that do quite well. Like, you know, probably all of us guys have had shorts that have done quite well. It's like, how many people have seen them in a theater? Like, you know, I guess because I'm partly producing, I guess it's like we are thinking about, you know, who's the distributor, if we're going to be able to get it into art house cinemas. That would be my like top ideal thing. Would be it's in picture house cinemas, UK, and has like a limited release. And if we got it, you know, internationally, that would be fucking great. But it's not like it's a art house. It's an independent art house type film. Yeah. If we could get that, excellent. If we could get on Netflix, fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? But
the route to that, I guess, is like getting shown in some kind of festivals like Sundance or something, and then getting picked up through that.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, that's our strategy. You know, at the end of the day, it's like we just got to make the film that's as best as it can be and it's honest as it can be, which is a weird thing because it's animation. It's like so dishonest. But we're like, we found this honest thing in it, and it's like, yeah, just getting it out there and getting people seeing it. That so excites me, that. And maybe if it gets into these things, maybe then we'll be lucky and it'll go on a big streaming platform or something. But
has your mum seen a cut of it at all?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Not in this form. Not in this form. She's seen cuts. She's seen earlier rushes, because there's even bits in the film now of her watching early bits of the film, like in the middle, and her reacting to it.
Right. But it's nearly there. I think we're going to be done by the start of 2022.
Wow.
So it's like we're getting the music composed as we speak. We just started that, so it's like getting there. But terrifying, man, terrifying. Like, particularly when you're in it, and it's your family, and you know it's. Yeah. But I think it's kind, and you know it's honest. So.
Does it help doing a lot of different things at the same time? Because you've obviously, if you spent 8 years on this, you've been making like basically like most of what's on your Vimeo channel has also been made in that time, I guess, right?
Yeah, probably. What, in terms of shorts and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've done it too, eh? It's like we kind of both have went away and done our own shorts in that time. And I remember thinking, actually, when making them, like, oh, maybe this will be done before the feature's done. And that's just like a total joke, because like we've done millions of them. It's like done loads of shorts, and is that right? This one's going to be is it like,
do you think it's like a form of procrastination? Do you think it's like made you guys more productive in terms of putting more shorts out there? Or is there genuine reasons why you put that thing to one side? Or like maybe a better way of talking about it is like how, like when you wake up in the morning or when you're starting the month or whatever, how do you decide what you're going to work on out of all that stuff?
That's a hard one, that. It's hard to kind of remember.
Well,
it's funny how we're like, we can't remember.
The feature film, it's been like practicalities, like funding has been a real, that's what dictated it, because we've managed to get like pockets of funding, and so it's like, right, we've got this batch of money, so we could shoot for another few weeks and then get an editor and do another little edit and push it forward a bit, and then we'd run out of money, and then we'd have to go and do other stuff, and then a few months later we'd find another batch of money, and then we'd be able to push it forward a bit more, and so that's a deciding factor.
Can I ask, like, in terms of like in that vein of like, you say you go away and do other stuff, would both of you be doing like commercial projects, or like what is that other stuff? Because I guess like it's interesting that you say that you only work on your shorts when you get funding, so you sort of see them as like a real job. Because I think a lot of animators, or certainly with us, like when we were doing shorts, we never got funding for our shorts. Like we only ever did it in our sort of spare time like when we wasn't doing like freelance commercial stuff. So it seems that you guys have got a completely different system that's working for you.
Well, I see what you're saying there. A lot of our, a few of my shorts anyway, haven't been funded. Okay. So like the most recent one, Betty and Have Heart Before, they weren't funded. They were like spare time things. So that was a bit more akin to what you're saying. But I think with, I mean, we did another one, Monkey Love Experiments, and that was funded.
Maybe Film Scotland.
Huh?
Yeah, Screen Scotland. What was
Screen
Monkey
Scotland?
Love was they're now called Screen Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe it's a bit different with stop motion, because it's like, you know, you need to set up a studio, you need to have a space, and it's like it's just a bit more labor intensive. I think when you can draw stuff or do stuff on a laptop.
Oh, it's easy, is it?
No, but it's easier to do it like bit by bit and carry it with you, I imagine. You know,
you need a bit for,
because am I right in that Have Heart and Betty were both done? You did them on the train or something? Is that true?
Well, Have Heart was on a train mainly to and from Glasgow working.
What did you do it in?
What did I make it in?
Yeah.
This weird. It's this software that no one knows about. It's called Moho. So I like before, like I've done a couple of talks and I've been like, oh, I use Moho, and and people are like, what's Moho? Weird. It's weird, man. Because I literally have done like everything on it.
Wow.
Like Longbird, Have Heart, Betty, all of our commercial work, everything. Like all of our little birds things, for like everything.
Where do you pick it up? What and why?
I picked it up in college and just like started using it. And it was kind of like, it just got better. And then it actually, I think it kind of like got stopped getting developed a bit. That was actually during lockdown. They stopped, I think maybe they were selling it. And I kind of clocked that. And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Like, I use this for everything. So I started just doing Blender because like I was like, oh, I'm going to see if I can do all the stuff that I did in Moho in Blender. And like it was actually you, Ains, who started using Blender. And you were like, because I started calling you Ainslie Blenderson, because you made your eyes for your models for Shackle, the BFI film, in Blender. And I think I was probably a bit jealous.
So the technophobic guy who you're telling
exactly.
I led the way. I led us into Blender.
Wow. Plot twist.
I'm gonna shake that technophobe handle off.
You have shaken it. You have shaken it. Honestly, honestly, shaked it.
You're shook. We're all shook.
You're shook. Yeah, that's it. Thanks. If you guys could see what Ainslie's doing in the wood, it's mad. It's like
I would love to see what Ainslie's doing in the wood.
Thing moving and it to actually work is a technical marvel. So I think you're there now.
Stepped up with that one. But I loved doing that on Blender. I designed eyes and eyelids and eye sockets, like as a little moving thing, so you could animate the lids and these eyes and stuff. And then so I designed it on Blender and then had someone help me with it, and then we 3D printed it. So they're like 3D printed eyes.
Wow.
So I was thinking like maybe you were going to like track them on or something, but they're actually like working mechanical sort of
parts made in Blender and then printed out.
Okay. The whole idea is like there's no, originally there was going to be no post, but like and that isn't strictly true, but it's pretty pure. It's like there's no rigs really, very minimal rigs.
Wow.
Like it's all like pretty much shot these great armatures out in the woods and just kind of like just straight ahead.
Yeah.
Pretty mad. I didn't realize how mad it was until, after we could lock down eased a little bit. Yeah. And I was out there at midnight, like drinking a coffee in the freezing colds before it started raining. It was like,
wait a minute, you're the producer and you had no idea what was going on this shoot.
You knew what was going on.
Did the BFI know about this?
Well, yeah, better ahead of that bit. But like, I suppose it dawned on me just being there, like, shit, this is crazy.
You'd been there seeing things set up and all that. That that was right in the dark and dirty middle of like the middle of winter, in the middle of the night. It's like under a tarpaulin. It's fucking like, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
It's like half filmmaking, half like Everest.
Yeah, it's like, didn't you say it's like Bear Grylls or something like that? It's like, like an endurance filmmaking.
I always find the planning for stop motion the most sort of like daunting thing. Like when I watch it, I'm always just like, how do you like get your? I can't quite get my head around how you like plan for it. And
what do you mean plan?
Like I guess like in terms of even just from a basic level of animating, you know, like it all has to be straight ahead, I guess, right? If you're doing stop motion. But I remember talking to one animator who was saying that he sometimes blocks his keys just for timing and then straight aheads afterwards. So like just as a kind of like throwaway blocking. But I remember watching your short stems, and I just couldn't quite get my head around what would have come first there, because you sort of found these, well, from I don't know how true it is, but from watching it, it looks like you found objects, built these random characters out of them without any planning, and then proceeded to animate them and have like a song that they were playing against. But I guess you would have had to have created all those stems first and the track, and it seemed very authentic to the way the story is told, but it couldn't have been, right?
It was kind of authentic. It's emphasized slightly in a slightly exaggerated way. It's like often I would have a finished puppet, and then so I knew what I was, because in the film you see the puppets being made as their music, and and it looks like they're just evolving out of wire, and then they're a fully formed thing. And usually I'd have a finished puppet, so I knew what I was working towards.
Right.
And so all the iterations in the frames running up to it I knew where I was ending up.
Right.
And the musician Poppy Ackroyd usually I would have the bits, I'd have like the pattern of music as well to animate to. So I knew, like, 10 frames from now, this character is going to hit that thing.
Right.
So I can kind of plan it in that way. But it was pretty straight. It was pretty straightforward. Not straightforward, easy, but it was like, as you see it, it's like, it's pretty honest as the way it's constructed.
That's amazing. It's it blew my mind just from a kind of technical point of view, and also like an emotional, because I guess you're talking about these characters having life and then essentially they don't have life anymore. And I'll give you a very good but big compliment from me on that film, is that one of my biggest pet peeves with any kind of art is when art talks about itself. So like a song about song, or a film about a film, or animation. When I see animators making animation about animation, it's a real turn off for me.
Why?
And that's one of the few films. That's one of the few films that I've seen where I'm like, I loved it. It completely broke that rule for me. It was so good. I didn't mind at all that it was referencing itself. Like I loved it for that.
Why don't you like that?
Because I feel like it's a narrow perspective when you can talk about anything. I feel like I feel like you're learning these tools in order to kind of talk about other things. So I feel like it's sort of like you're eating your own tail, with the process. And I've never really seen anything.
I kind of agree with you on that point most of the time, but I think most of the stuff that you guys do is kind of like referencing the process, but it always somehow works for me.
Well, I suppose for me, it's like you need something else. You have to be blending it. You have to be like, Will and I have a thing where we always ask, like, why animation? Why have this element in the film? How do you have to justify all the stuff that you're doing in your own mind. You have to have like a set of rules, like we're just like, it's like, it's revealing the process, why, and what else is in it, why.
Like, often, when people come to us, they want animation for things, you can see straight away. It's like they just want animation. They don't have a reason for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like our film, like, so we just have to relate it to our own stuff. But like Monkey, it's like it has to be from the monkey's point of view. Makes total sense. And like we're not going to train a monkey, you know. So like animation, perfect. You know, it's like going into the mind.
We could have trained a monkey. We could have trained a monkey.
I think it would be more expensive, probably.
Yeah, I guess like that is true though. With stems, it's sort of it's more about life and death than it is about like about it being animated. Although that, and I guess
it's about aliveness. It's about what makes things feel alive. And not live. And you know, music's like that, and it's like, and it is about that. Like I love when you're, you know, when you're making something, and there is a little moment that it's like suddenly it's like a guy is a little kind of character is looking at you, and it's like it must be the same. You know, you're working on a computer or you're drawing something. It's like you start throwing shapes around, and then suddenly when something takes on a character, it's alive, and it's like part of your mind is delighted by it, by seeing this life in this thing in front of you. It's cool that, because you're projecting it onto it. You're bringing something to life in your mind. It's like, and that's what animation is. There
is something about animation that's always been like quite self-referential. Like if you look at some of those really early like Winsor McKay things, they've always got the guy in it like drawing it, or the hand coming in and like drawing the stuff. And you don't really see that. You don't see that with like orchestra performances or ballet, or what. They don't go like, hey guys, this is like a this is like a ballet performance. But there's something about animation, I don't know what it is, it just like, it feels like it's such a fucking insane way of making things that you have to be like,
every now and again remind people. But I don't know, I like that. I think it's a fascinating, I think you should, the aliveness and people buying into characters is the kind of the incredible thing about it. But you should use, I feel personally, I mean, obviously, like, it's just my opinion, but I feel like you should use that tool to then explore other things, you know what I mean? Not exclusively. I mean, I think that your film is a perfect example, and it kind of puts my theory to shame, because I absolutely love it. But I feel like it's sometimes, it's a shame, like when I feel like if that's the only thing that you're going to talk about, when you know you've got so much to explore, you know.
I guess that the, like, one question that I wanted to ask you guys is like, how much do you make your films for animators?
Not very much.
Not at all.
I think so.
I think like we do, like, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for both of us, but like I think we've had a joke like that. We at arts, we studying animation, we shared a distaste for animation. It's one of the things that we first got, which is bullshit, because we love anime. You know, I love animation, and Will, I know you love animation, but we don't. I know I don't love animation for the sake of animation. It's like, and that's not what I'm looking for when I watch an animated film. You know, like, you know, some of the best films, in my opinion, some of the things I love the most have terrible. Adam Elliott he'd be the first to talk about how terrible, he almost makes a thing of making terrible animation. But it's the heart in it, it's the sentiment of it and what's being said and all of that stuff. That's
but you guys obviously do put energy into the quality of the animation as well, though, right? It is something that you care about, the movement.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'd say you more than me.
Yeah, as soon as I finished that sentence, I thought, yeah, the opposite of this is totally true. I obsess over the movement, and there is something about a piece of movement, like when a character moves in a certain way, it's like when you get it in a way that satisfies you. It's like playing it's like a bit of melody, you know. That sounds really wanky, but it is like hearing a piece of melody that's played really well or sung really well. When a character moves, it's like, and you get it right, it's like, oh, it's beautiful.
I don't think that's the same thing as making something for animators, though. I think people appreciate that who don't know the craft. And like coming back to dance, like I every now and then I'll go and watch some dance thing, and the thing I really like about watching dance is that I have absolutely no point of reference for it whatsoever. I don't know like what I'm looking at, why people are making these decisions or doing any of this stuff. But but you can feel like that there's stuff happening, you know, like there's something clever going on here. There's something like honest or, you know, like heartfelt happening. And I think that I think that stuff can transcend. It does, you know, just because you're doing something that's, you know, sophisticated animation doesn't mean that non-animators are not going to appreciate it.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, all the whatever Pixar films or Disney films that have ever been made, whether you like them or not, the animation is super high quality.
Yeah.
And
even when even as a kid, like you remember like the smallest little things, the smallest little like gestures and like facial expressions like really stick with you. Even though that they, you know, even though you're not an animator, you're just like a little kid. It was just the way somebody's mouth moved or, you know, said a thing.
Yeah, there's a few things, like there's one that always like stuck in my head was when it's in Lady and the Tramp, and it's when the dog's looking that like it's hunting one of the dogs that's been nicked, and it's like a bloodhound, and it's like sniffing the floor, and it's like picking up all this kind of like it's like tasting the floor as he's doing it, and like that always stuck in my head as a kid, that scene. Like and when I look back at it now, I'm just like, oh, it's because they've just put so much energy into the character of that.
Yeah, somebody who stayed really late and like obsessed about that over the weekend,
and it is, and that's dance in a way, isn't it? It's the same. It's dance. It's like something is being, so much is being communicated to you. I was watching Toy Story 4 for the 1000th time because I love it. My little boy loves it, so we watched it together. But it's like that bit when the way Bo pulls Woody's hat down.
Yeah.
It's just like, I watch it and just think, whoever animated that, it's like so tender, and it just like says it's like tender and slightly patronizing, and just like she's just, and it's just her tipping his hat down. It's just like but like you say, that's not for animators, that's human. All humans read that stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's what's interesting about animation, is that you're kind of actually, you're making it for people who might not know about animation but are masters of like reality, you know, like as an audience member you understand when something feels odd or feels weird, like instinctively, even if you don't know why, you know. And that I guess as animation and animators we are trying to like distill and boil down, you know.
It's especially with human beings, like when you see, because we all have this map in our minds that we're not really conscious of like, we know how a human being moves. So when it's a bit wrong, your mind's immediately like, nah, I'm not having that. I'm not buying it.
I think like what I like about your stuff, Will, is that I feel like in your stuff you understand that movement so well that you can find humor in stuff moving in a very different way. Like I was watching the Have Heart, and the ducks, the way they kind of move it, and it's so I guess there is an element of like natural movement to it, but it's so counterintuitive to how you would, if someone was going to animate a duck, you know, I mean, they wouldn't think about doing that way. And then also like all the rig stuff you've been doing with, I think, Blender, where like there's, I guess the movement isn't the most natural, but there's something super appealing about that. And how is that? Because you understand what makes something novel through movement?
I think it's a lot. Well, say Have Heart, for example, I would see it like in a really logical way. Like it's almost, I know it's not human, but the way that I would add, like, because, you know, animation can be so bad, like we said, like just animating it and just getting the weight right, I'm obsessed about.
Right.
Yeah. So that, in that instance, it's more like, okay, I'm going to obsessively make it like as human as I can.
Right.
And then that makes it more credible in my mind for some reason, because it's a human story or whatever. But since then, I'm more excited kind of about what you were talking a bit about before, where you were all talking about it. It's like being surprised and like excited by things moving like on their own. That's the new thing that I'm like pretty obsessed about at the moment.
Right.
That's my kind of ultimate goal at the moment, is like making work animate itself. And I think that kind of came out of Have Heart and Betty and all that, because when I've done so much animation, 2D digital puppet animation, I have done far too much of it. You get quite fast at it, and you kind of, there's a method, and it kind of, but when they have a voice and then they start acting and they start blinking and start breathing, suddenly it's like, oh my God, like it's so exciting. And I guess just that what I'm doing now with Blender, I think, is just trying to find that next step of that, like this new level of like they're animating themselves and they're coming to life themselves, and I am just so excited by that. It's like being a god, really.
Yeah.
Like, that sounded like a pretentious wanky bastard. Like suddenly it's like my dream, I guess, is to kind of just make animation just happen, like with our thanks, G. I was on a fucking roll there.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's more about like being like surprised, like things coming alive, that I'm so up for at the moment. We're talking about it in terms of like, how do we make a show like that? Because like, we've all made shorts, and we're like, what do you do? We're making a short right now, but it's like, I'd like to make a system that means we can make like a massive thing. That's
So
it's like maybe a show or a film or a theater show, or I don't know, but just so that we can kind of make more stuff. It just fucking excites me, that.
What is it about, like, I feel like if we were having this conversation, I don't know, like 8 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever, we'd probably be all just like, maybe I'm wrong about this, just really excited about making shorts. I mean, you guys were already making a feature 8 years ago, I guess, but like,
failing miserably.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what is it like? Why is now that all transferred to a sort of, everybody's wanting to make longer form things? Is it just you feel like there's more that you can't get across in 5-10 minutes, or like why? Or is it about how people see it? Because I guess that, we were talking about, do you make animation for animators? But like, is it important to you guys that, a thing would go out on a streaming platform, or, like the way in which people consume things? Is it important that more people could see it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one. I think maybe just to like, we do like quite a few different things. Like, we've done like a few theater shows. We're working on a theater show. I've been making a game for a while. Like, it's almost like just getting, I don't know, I'm not speaking for you necessarily. I think for me, it's like, it's just getting, it's almost like just getting as much out as possible is super important to me. Just like another sort of crowd of people are seeing animation and beautiful stories somehow. That's so exciting. So it's not like a specific thing, I don't think. Like, I don't want to rush to make another feature film, for example, to like get it out in the cinema at all. It's like, I just want to be excited by making stuff and people seeing it.
It's so funny, because like my sort of understanding of what you guys have been doing over the last 8 years is quite different to what you have actually been doing, right? Because you've been doing a game, you've been doing this short in the woods, you've been doing this feature film about your mum. Like, there's so much there that's going on that you have no idea that about, that people are doing, and yet I kind of know you for your, like, whatever you put up on Instagram or Vimeo or Twitter, and it's like a really strange thing that, like, there's these two kind of versions of yourself that are out there in the world. And I guess that it sounds like the one that's more important to you is the kind of longer form stuff, maybe, or the game stuff or whatever.
The amount of content, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I hope that it all comes together. It's like the stuff that I've been obsessing of, with Blender and rigging. I've been really getting rigging. Like, I guess it's all kind of just a way of bringing it all together, really. It's like I'm just working on the mechanics of how we do more stuff, and you know, obviously it all feeds in though. It's like we're making things and then ideas come out of that. It's just like a way of, yeah, I hope it's a way of bringing it all together, really. I don't know if that, it's a hard one though. I hope that people see, maybe this ego getting in the way. I hope that people see it as like they make beautiful animated emotional films. I hope that that they put themselves in.
Sorry.
But I guess that's not up to me, really. You know what I mean? It's like, well, see, maybe that won't land. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
You know, you said you like there was a hope they would all come together. What is that? What do you mean by that in terms of like what is the ultimate goal for you guys? Like in an ideal world, you know, I know that's a big question, but in relation to like your careers, like making animation, like is the hope that you, because I'm fascinated, I love short films, I always have done, like, and I think I've never been able to really see how to monetize it or to make a proper living from it. So I'm kind of fascinated by you guys as people who have been doing it for the best part of 10 years, you know? And so when you say, you know, I hope it all kind of like resolves it or come together, like what is that hope? What's the end game?
I always thought it was, say, like a tangible thing, like would be, we have this show, like we have this like long form thing that we've built together, and we throw infinite amounts of stories at, and the characters are characters that you learn to love, and you know them like inside out to the point where they're like family. Because like what, you know, when we're kids, like we watch, you know, you mentioned you remember these bits in animated films. That to me, I think, is like super powerful. So if I can build something that can do that, and I kind of don't want to do it in a way that's like graft. I want to do it in a way that's natural, so that we can almost just work with great actors and, you know, improvise actually, because it's, you know, it's such a skill, you know, doing what we're doing. And that's not to undermine it at all. Like Ainslie's amazing stop frame animation, and, you know, like I'm okay at puppet animation, whatever. But it's like I want to look for I want to kind of find a new language. I sound like a dick. I hate hearing myself saying that. It's like, and I think what that is like digital puppetry in my head.
Right.
Which I'm not pretending to like people have talked about this for ages. But me and Ains, we're trying this out a bit. Like we've always done this improvising thing where we write together, record our voices, put ourselves in our own films. And I think like the dream for me, can't say it's for both of us all the time, but the dream for me is that we can just kind of just do it. Like, does it have to be like this thing that takes forever? And is it better that way? That is.
There's such a conflict between like it feels like from the outside, I have no idea how you guys write stuff together, but it seems like there's probably some kind of loose script or some ideas or whatever. And then you sit down and you record yourselves talking to each other, and a lot of it is improvised. And then you animate over the top of it. And I think it comes off like it all just feels like super natural and in the moment. But there's this like moment of like creativity right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which must feel like this explosion, and then this like really long tail on the end of it.
Totally. And I've got that bit. So I got the production down to like I could do them in like a couple of days or a week. You know what I mean? If we're doing, you know, it's like we're pigeons flying about Scotland or whatever. But it's still like a bit of a graft that, you know, and I guess there's pleasure out of that, you know, like, you know, more than us, like amazing, beautiful art, making amazing, beautiful art. It's amazing. It's like, there's a pleasure you get out of it. I think what I'm saying about what I want to get to is that creative explosion bit and it all happening there. And rigging's a bit like that, because you're setting everything up. You're rigging the whole world and the characters so they're ready, and then like you just go. And it's like being at a theater. It's like being at, you know, there. You're in it. You know, like that.
So your goal is to use things like motion capture and physics and things like that to automate like as many parts of it as possible.
I think so, but then you like my thought at the moment is like, oh well, you could get great actors and you could get their facial stuff, you know. But obviously, motion capture a lot looks like motion capture. Right. Just finding and again, there's probably people doing this really well. Just as an idea, just do it in a stylized way that's 2D and like that looks great, and that we can tweak and like that fucking so fucking exciting that.
Well, that seems like something you are exploring. So how close are you to like implementing something like that?
I think not that far away, and like, but I don't know. It's more like finding the right idea. You know what I mean? And now that's what we're sort of trying to do, which is like, okay, well, what's our show? You know. But I don't know what that is yet necessarily. It's more like it's a bit like maybe it's you guys as a studio. It's like you've got R&D going on. It's like that's my R&D.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, it's time well spent, because I'll just, you know, work on this capture stuff and see what happens. Probably really rudimentary and, you know, but whatever. It's like if it does the job, I'm like super excited by it.
And when you talk about like getting this show, is it a process that you're developing so that you can kind of maintain the freedom you have when you're creating short films? Because obviously if you get film funding, okay, you might have to get scripts signed off initially before the funding, but once they give it to you, it's just sort of like you go and make it and there's no client or feedback rounds or anything like that. Is the thought that, you know, because as soon as you start actually getting money, okay, right, you're shaking like you do
just
get
a little bit, but yeah.
All right. But surely it's not as bad as if someone's giving you, you know, Coca-Cola are giving you X amount of money to make a thing.
Totally.
So is the feeling about doing a series in this kind of cost-effective, quick way that you could essentially fund it yourselves and make it by yourselves, or is it that you'd get this system, you'd write these stories, and then you would try and get commissioned? Because I guess that puts you into a world of, you know, now you have a client essentially.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wonder, like, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, like, you know, Ains, if we got like £10 million or more, sorry, like 100 million to make a film, don't know if I'd want to do that, really. I'm not really sure if that would be better. Do you know what I mean?
You don't know if you'd want to do what?
Like right, okay, you get 100 million for your next stock film animated film. Like maybe you'd really like that.
You got to take that, surely, bro.
You got to take it. Yeah.
You got to take that.
But like,
do you have to spend it all on the film? That is the question.
Yeah, that's true.
So 99 million goes in the old skyrocket, and then £1 million on the.
But you know, like as a creative person, it would be like, I think for me, I don't know what you think, but like for me, it would be like this. There's this desire to just be able to make stuff more easily. Actually, that's probably what I'm getting at.
Right.
So it's probably less like, all right, let's get Netflix to buy the show and, you know, pay for the show or whatever. And it's like, I think it's more just like, can we just keep doing what we're doing and, you know, make it the way that we want to make it? It's so vague that's a really terrible.
No, but I think
no,
it's
true though.
Sorry, go on.
It is true though, because the more, you know, the more money that you have, the more expectations and the more things you have to deliver and the more stress. And it's as much about like designing like processes, isn't it, as it is designing the actual art, because it's like figuring out what makes you happy, you know, what's an enjoyable way of working and what are the results. And it's like really easy to be seduced into thinking like, oh, the higher the production, the more money, the better this thing will be. But it really doesn't work like that.
Doesn't. I think we've said, Ains, before, our best stuff is probably so far, you know, like maybe our earlier films were better than the funded ones. They were freer.
Yeah, it can.
And I think Dom is better
yourself up.
because it's, you know, we could do what we wanted and we worked it out.
So have you guys, I'm interested in this because I guess that this is like a really significant difference, I guess, between the sort of way me and Tim have gone in our careers and the way that you guys have gone. You don't seem to do a lot of commercials.
We don't.
Is that, and that must be, I'm assuming that's a choice to some extent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it? It is. It is a choice. Well,
You must have had
representation offers.
We've been a bit ambivalent about it,
right?
You know, and that's a choice. And I think we've learned that if you're a bit ambivalent about getting commercials, you don't win the pitches.
Oh yeah. It's
Because
you really got to chase it if you want that stuff.
You do. And people
have you pitched on commercials? Like, was you ever signed to production companies at any point?
We were signed.
Well, you were, right? Aardman, yeah.
We were signed to Aardman for a while.
We were at Aardman, yeah. We didn't do very much, but again, it's like you said, it was just very obvious that we weren't hungry enough to like win that, you know, cereal commercial. But like,
and do you think that that's because you guys didn't want to put up with the politics, or you didn't want to waste time on that stuff and you want to focus on your own stuff, or like where do you think that comes from?
It's funny, isn't it? Because we definitely tried for a while, didn't we, Ains? You know, we did some talks and we did try, but there was always this niggling, like, and I don't want to put it like, you know, oh, we're like really wealthy and we don't need it. It's like, no, we could, you know, we don't make that much money. Like, we probably needed those. It would be great to have got a commercial, you know, but I just don't think we were very good at that. We're not very good at like being those guys that make the commercial, because we're like.
Which part of those guys are you not good at? The making the commercial, or the like being in the meeting?
I think the making is fine, like the actual making it, but it's the wanting it and the like the pitching it and you know, when, because that's so competitive, right? Like, I remember, weren't we in Japan, Ains, and we met Becky and Joe?
Oh yeah.
And we were like, and they were like, oh, we've started this job and it's for XYZ, and it's like, we pitched on that and we lost it and they got it, and it was like, it was just quite eye-opening. Like,
it's quite nice though, because I remember they were like, oh, we're halfway through this commercial and God, it's so stressful, and it was so great to escape it and get out here and then have a little break before we go back to it. It's like,
wow, who gets to go to Japan in the middle of making a commercial?
Isn't it?
I'm surprised you weren't there, Sam, because every festival I'm at, you're there.
What are you talking about? I thought you were just at all the festivals. I've been to like 2 festivals and you were at both of them.
We famously don't get into festivals.
Yeah. So. You guys are the one with all the ones with all the laurels on your videos.
Yeah.
But we have done some kind. I think the thing is with commercials as well, you need a real clear brand. You need a real clear look, and you need to know what it is. Like, you look at Becky and Joe, they have such an aesthetic, such a style. So you know, like, clients know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
I think you know, we have an aesthetic and we have a style as well. But I think also we're always kind of changing that and mucking about, and it's like really good to really have a commercial life. I think you need to have something you do, and then you need to keep doing it and do and refine it. And but then, having said that, we have done a little bit of like things with birds. We've done a few.
Spooking on a Greg.
Spooking on a Greg guy. That's our best thing.
Yeah, I love that. So I saw that at Anslie, actually, I think. Yeah, that's weird.
We've done quite a bit of bird stuff, but again, it's not really. It's been commercial, but
yeah, but you know, not real. Like, you know, we do the odd charity thing, and do you know what I mean?
Adult Swim short, right?
Yeah,
How did that come about?
Dave Hughes, he's a producer there. He's great. He kind of trolls the internet, and so he did this show called Off the Air.
I don't know.
It's brilliant. It's on YouTube. Basically, he finds all these. There's a one word. So like our episode was liquid. He finds all these different like things from the internet by creators, and he stitches them all together in a really kind of creative, mashed up way, and makes these shows called Off the Air, and they're 10 minutes long. So he asked for we had these little two ducks splashing in the water, and Ains wants to splash and I don't. And just stupid little fun thing. And they put that in it. So like, that was like the first thing. And then he started commissioning shorts called Adult Swim Smalls, which was the idea that they would commission a short and or a series of shorts that are character led that maybe go to series. I don't know if that was strictly for all of them, but that's what our one was kind of pitched as. But then recently we actually went back to them we did a Christmas thing with the puppetry thing that I've been working on.
Yeah.
Like that was like a test of like, how do we animate like, you know, like with digital puppets. But same thing, Adult Swim Smalls, and we pitched it to him actually. So that was like a fun little thing. But yeah, things like that we do. Like we did a thing with the birds for a theatre in Leith here in Edinburgh to try and raise money for them and awareness. But like not commercials. It's funny. Like I do design work like a lot for this design company in Glasgow, ISO. Yeah. Which is great because I do 2D design stuff. That's kind of what I do. So it's great that they're great and I kind of help out them a lot. So that means that I can do other things that I want to do, you know?
Yeah. How many days a week are you with them?
It's a freelance thing. So I might go 6 months without it, and then I might be with it for, a month or two. But
yeah, it's really nice stuff actually. I hadn't come across it until I started looking at your work, and it's like a pretty consistently strong portfolio of stuff they do, and like it seems like all the clients are quite like legit.
Well, they really like. I'm sort of speaking for them, obviously, but they do a lot of stuff for museums. So it seems to be like there's like international museums need a lot of interactive and screen-based work, and it's really like they've really kind of got that market.
And do you creatively direct that stuff, or are you mostly?
I don't actually. I kind of come in as a designer and just a designer on it.
Do you like that role? Do you like?
I quite like it. Yeah, I do like it. I've learned like a ton from it. Like even like today, I'll have like I'll put a design sheet across and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. And then it's like you need these other eyes and these other thoughts, and then you just look back on your Slack threads and you're like, wow, it's so much better. And that helps my work because it's like you have this thing where you've done all these shorts and they do all right. You're like, oh, everything I'll do is great now. It's like, it's totally not true. Like, oh, it's like it needs other perspective, And I think I'm quite good at like taking notes. I'm like, I just expect them because it's like, it's hard, isn't it, getting notes? It's shit getting notes. But like doing that kind of a lot of design work over the years has really made me go, yeah, of course, you have to just adapt.
I think the nicest thing is when you're able to do both things, when you're able to be in a position of control sometimes, and then also like take notes and get feedback from other people and learn at other points as well. But like, I do actually like, if you don't mind, like, did you really make Have Heart on a train?
Yeah.
You were just, how long is it either way? And
it's an hour. Well, at the time it was an hour and 45 there and back because there was train works. There was like loads more time than usual.
And was it like a packed carriage, or did you have a little bit of space to yourself?
No, it's not packed. No.
Did you have
I've got like the majority of it was there.
Did you have like a mouse pad? Did you using the little?
I like have a Wacom like everywhere. It's like my other limb.
Right.
I've not got a Cintiq or anything like that. It's just like I use it as a mouse.
And you just put it on the table and you were there drawing and
Yeah.
wow.
But like, again, what I was saying earlier, it's like,
that makes me feel like an absolute piece of shit that I'm not making more stuff. Like that is so,
don't feel like a piece of shit.
I'm sure for some people that would be really motivating, but for me, that's just like,
don't let him do that to you, Sam. Don't let him torment you like that.
I remember there was a guy who made a short called Dr. Breakfast or something like that. I saw it on Vimeo, and apparently he made that on his commute into like New York every day, and he was doing it on like a light box. Like he had a little light box.
I'm gonna make
I might have completely slandered this guy, but like I'm sure I saw a making of a
that's
red
excellent.
sign you said like
I'm gonna watch that when this is done.
Yeah, Dr. Breakfast.
It's great.
But you have to bear in mind though that like, you know, it's kind of what I was saying a bit about earlier, finding the quickest way to do things. Like I'd have like a library of walks and, you know, blinks, and, you know, the blinks are triggered by like hotkeys. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and it's like, oh yeah, you're making this film and it's like 12 minutes and I've just like tried to like find the quickest way to do things all the time, so I can like just fire it out. So it's almost just like making libraries of things.
Are you sort of scripting that stuff, or are you working with people to do that?
We normally write it ourselves, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean programming rather than writing.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like, I'm not a programmer at all.
Right.
I'd love to learn more Python,
right.
But like, I don't really know any of it, really. I'm really just I'm a total new to like Blender and just jumping in. It's like it's just a bit obsessive about it, and it's like if you know, because I'm coming from the 2D side of things, I kind of know what I'm after. It's not like, oh, I'm going in and like learning like retopology and big 3D concepts that are like scary and take you know, months of like working and, you know, professionally on it to actually start to get it. It's more like I know what I want to get 2D working in there. Yeah. That's all I'm really pushing, you know.
When you're learning a new piece, because I've like we've had a big like kind of push towards Blender here as well over the last few years, and I like get these windows where I'm allowed to sit down with, or just like I've got a bit of downtime and I'll like pick something up. I've been doing Harmony last week, and then
doing Harmony.
Yeah. And that was really fun because like it's quite quick to get up and running with, and like there's loads of tutorials about it and stuff. With Blender, it was I think it was right when there was like a big update, and I spent a week on it, and I was using grease pencil. I guess that's not necessarily what you're using right now.
Yeah, it is really.
Oh, it is. Okay, right. And I'd play around with that for a bit, and then I would push one button, and then like just everything would explode, and I'd be in. Because I'm not a 3D guy, right? And so I was suddenly I was in like 3D world, and I would be completely lost. And it felt for a minute like that could be the next big thing in 2D animation, but it feels like maybe it's just a little bit too complicated still.
Yeah, well, maybe they're making it better. Like I've already said, like with Ainslie's film, it's like we could have like scanned, because you know it's a 3D film, like you know it's a stop frame film. We could have like scanned the space, because it's all set in like kind of one main set, isn't it? We could have scanned the space, and we could have used grease pencil to like draw the storyboard frames with all the right angles, get the cameras. We could have programmed the cameras in there. It's like, I think that's the way it's going. I think it'll get easier. But I'm with you. It's like it's super, when you've not got, you know, you're running a massive studio, right? So it's like, you're busy. When I'm like here and I've got more time between a job, like I've got weeks, it's like, yeah, I can really focus on it. But they'll make it easier. It's definitely something, I think.
Can I ask Ainslie, I guess like you focus more on kind of like stop motion, and I guess you're exploring a bit with Blender, but has your love for animation ever wanted to make you, or as an animator ever made you want to like be a freelance animator, like, you know, go and work as an animator on other people's productions, or on features or commercials? Because I guess there is work out there, even more so than ever, for stop motion productions. You know, you've got things like Fantastic Mr. Fox being made here, and Isle of Dogs, and all that. Isle of Dogs and that.
Yeah, not as an animator. I don't think I'm passionate enough about. I don't think I could, because it's like just it's physically grueling to be making stop motion for hours and hours a day, and like I think it's more about like the direction for it's more about directing something for me.
Right.
I directed something for the BBC with McKinnon and Saunders in Manchester, who they're amazing. They're amazing. It's like they're puppet makers, and they've also got a studio. And so I went and directed a 3-minute short for them.
And you didn't animate on it; they animated.
And I didn't animate on it, and so is that the only what?
Your neck out.
Yeah, I was gonna. That's right. I was gonna be animating. And I damaged my neck like
Just before.
Like 6 weeks before the shoot, and I was like,
how did you do it?
Just basic anxiety about the fact I was about to become a dad. Put my neck out, and like I was, the shoot day was coming closer and closer and closer. I was like, my neck, I'll be better by the time we get it. I'll be better. And then it was like, as we got there, I realized I wasn't. So we had to get other animators. But I think that was the first time that I directed other stop motion animators, and having to, like, after someone had spent hours and hours animating a shot, to then have to go and see what they'd done and it not be quite right.
Yeah.
And to have to say to them, like, yeah, it's good. Could we try it again one more time?
That is the thing with stop motion, is that like if someone does 5 seconds of animation and you see it and you're like, nope, you can't go back. You have to start again, right?
Start again. And I had to like take a deep breath and go on in, say it, ask them to do it again. And knowing, like, if I was him.
Is that how you really hurt your neck? Someone got you in a headlock after you get the first note.
If I was an animator on a stop motion set, I don't know how well I could take it with the director, like looking at what I've done. Let's have a look and going, it's not quite right. Could we do it again? I would just be.
Yeah, I'm so
hard for that.
Different, but I'm so used to that. You know, like you have to just be like, no, redo it again.
Is it different
when it's design on your own projects though? Like when you animate something for yourself and you look back
you would never animate something twice.
Because I'll get it right the first time.
What about you, Ainslie?
You see, that's what I think as well, because you're making it for yourself. You know what you want. You're going to animate it. You get it, maybe very occasionally you go, and you do it again. But
that happened actually in Chekhov, the walk on the early scene. You did actually do that. But yeah, it's rare though. It's rare.
It's rare. And also the first time you do something, it usually has an energy to it that's like starts to die if you do it again and again and again.
Do you know what? I feel exactly the same. But when I've been forced to redo the work because I like lost the file or that it corrupted or something, it is always better the second time. I'm always like, I'm like, fuck, I've got to redraw all that stuff, and then I'm like, it's not going to be as good, and it always is better. But if I did something I didn't like and I'd spent a lot of time on it, I'm not changing it. It's kind of, it's a like hand on your heart. Like, do you not change stuff because you think you've done it right the first time, or just that you just think I can't emotionally go through that again? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Linked to it, it's emotionally there, isn't it? You have a visceral reaction to notes.
No, I don't. I'm getting better. I think that's one thing we're good, because often as when we collaborate on something, I think it's like on some subconscious level we're able to read, like, is he losing his shit? Because if he is, I'm going to keep it together. So it's like if one of us goes, oh, fuck this, I can't believe it's not. The other one's like, no, it's cool, it's all right, let's just read it, it'll be fine. It's like you kind of balance each other out in a way, you know.
Yeah.
You saying the other, like, won't get too specific, but remember you were getting a no. We were getting a no, and you said you caught yourself in the Zoom and your frown. Like you caught, you caught yourself like looking at yourself. Weird. It was like fun. try a little bit.
Oh no, shit! I have to change that face. I can't present them with that.
What note was that? Was that for the film you were doing?
I can't remember. I don't think it was.
So how comes you were getting given notes if you're making sure? Is this what you're saying about funders like wanting to review stuff?
Oh yeah, I think it just never. I think the act of filmmaking process, it's never when you have funding. I think it's like they just, it's their money they're putting in it. So there's it's just a process of talking it through.
Although I have to say, we don't want to get too specific about the film and the BFI and stuff. On this, when you're working with the BFI, you are getting money from people who know a lot of things about films. Like they've done it, so it's like their notes they're pretty good.
Yeah.
There's not been anything that we've disagreed with, actually.
Yeah.
No.
Well, apart from that one frown.
Well, yeah. At the time, yeah, but he was probably right. But yeah, and it's not like anyone. It's not like. See, that's just an example right now, but it's not like anyone wants the film to be worse.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's all looking for this thing. That's like, and when you're really busy and this, and like when it's stressful and hard to like, you're out in the woods in the rain and the snow, it's hard to see things and see clearly.
Yeah.
And it's like having this external thing is good. But there's definitely, I've said this before, and I think it's fair, that there's definitely an art to making a funded film, and there's definitely an art to make a non-funded film. And
what would your tips be for that? Because I guess we're making this for kind of the animation community, but also I'm sure there's a lot of young animators who are inspired by your work and want to do that. Like what tips would you give for that art of making a funded film?
I genuinely think being really open to thoughts is a big one, like what we've just said. Like really, like even when we think our ideas are great and it's brilliant and we've written the script and we don't need to rewrite it too many times and we've got funding, we're good to go, let's do it. It's like, no, you need to really be open-minded to like, like God, this feature film is totally different and it's a better film. Like be open-minded to like hearing what other people think about it. And
I think that's really true. I think that's really true because I think often what you think you're saying isn't it's coming across slightly differently. It's a language, and you think you're saying something in a certain way, and so to hear hopefully someone intelligent who understands film say to you, what I'm getting when you do this is this. What I'm feeling when you make this bit of film like this is this, and it's like it's really helpful.
What happens if you say no? I don't agree with that. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I think it's a negotiation, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think in our experience now, it's like our crash course experience with this current film. It's like we've often just agreed because they're right. But like, I think if you really disagreed, particularly if you're down there grafted making it, we would have a good reason for that.
I think so. I don't think I might be wrong, but I get the impression that the notes that they give you are just notes to help you to take or leave and to help you. Yeah. I don't think they're dictating anything. I think if I really passionately disagreed and said, and wanted it a certain way, I think they would let that happen.
Yeah. I remember being at college. I remember being at college, and at college when you're doing a thesis film or whatever, you get a ton of notes from your tutors.
Yeah.
I remember at the time being like, that one was really great, and I'm going to ignore that one, and I'm going to ignore that one. Yeah. And I mean, it's just to help you along, really.
I mean, I think that's almost to me. to me, that's
Right.
the definition of being a director, is like knowing what feedback to ignore and what feedback to take on, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because often, like often when I get a note, the ones that hit you are like ones that you've kind of foggily
Yeah.
sensed on some level, but
Yeah.
you've not wanted to address, either because
Yeah.
you think it'll cause you too many problems.
So you've got to reanimate that scene.
Yeah.
You got to reanimate. You got to do another tiny bit of animation again.
Yeah.
No, it's something you, for some reason, you've been not wanted to think it, and then someone points it out, and you go, "Shit, they're right." You know.
When you hear yourself getting defensive about something, and you're like, "Oh, fuck."
I always feel like when you have to, like when you have to explain it to them.
Yeah.
Like if someone goes, "I'm not really getting that," and you go, "Well, it's because this," and you end up explaining it for 5 minutes, and you go, "Well, obviously it didn't work because they didn't get any of that from just watching it."
Yeah, that's it. It's fine, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's a bit like that, in there was a scene in your film, and it's like you kind of stop shooting because you're like, right, we're done, but then there was a note like it needs to do something else, and you knew that was right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then there's a if you're busy, you're like, oh, how do I fix this? Like
Well, I suppose it's hard because there's a lot of argument around this about, is there a definitive right or wrong? Is there, it's not like sport, is it? We're making art, so it's always like, I'm always a little annoyed when someone says it doesn't work, because I'm always like, well, there's the shades of gray. It's art. It's like, it can be better or worse, but so it's really hard sometimes to go like, that's wrong, it needs fixed, because everything can always be better. So
do you guys give each other notes? I guess you do, right? Like,
yeah.
And how often does it happen where one of you gives the other one a note, and then that person ignores it? Like, how often do you feel like you're watching the actual film and you're like, I'm really glad that person didn't listen to my advice, or I really wish that he'd listened to my advice in that moment?
We're pretty open, aren't we? Yeah. We're pretty like, we'll just like, we kind of really listen to each other. I think there's some times where I'll go to you, maybe on a less like authored short film. I might go to you, I've done all the animation, I'm not fucking doing anything else.
So many notes.
So just be nice, but I'm sort of joking. And then you'll go, you should, take 2 puffs of the cigar, and I'm like, fuck yeah, you're probably right. And then it's my favorite bit. Yeah. So like, there's a bit of that, but I think generally,
and I think that actually is the most important part of our collaborating. Actually, that is like, what do you think? And having the other person talk about it.
I think that is kind of that chemistry. If you can find people like that, it's such an important thing. I think that I owe a lot of our success as a brand, the line, to that chemistry of people where I trust their opinion. Like if you meet a random client that you're doing a job for, like you have to suss out whether or not like you understand their opinion's good or not, because you don't really know them, you don't know what their taste levels are, and so it's a harder thing. You're kind of going, is that right, is that not, like, what are they into normally, and you try and work out that way. Whereas like if Sam, Wes, Bjorn, or James tell me something, I don't have to, or Max. Max never gives me notes though. But if any of the other lads would give me notes, I don't even have to really question it too much, because I know it's probably coming from a correct place, and as our studios expanded and we get a good working relationship with the other animators and producers, that we're expanding that kind of pool of people who we respect their opinions.
I think it's also just knowing where someone's coming from, right? Like if you know somebody really well, you know where their opinion's going to be coming from, and it's like they could say something really sincerely, and they could be like, I really think you should change this. I'm like, yeah, but that's where you and me differ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's fine. you know, but you have to, it takes quite a long time to get to know that about somebody.
I agree with that. It works in the reverse way. Like if if I know Sam's particular type of humor is not my particular type of humor, and he makes a comment because it's something that he would find interesting or funny to see, but I'm like, well, I know that's not what I would find funny, then I could make that decision to be like, okay, that's probably not a comment I'm going to address, as an example. So yeah, it works both ways, I think, on that.
I think it takes a long time to get your head around that stuff. And I think that's what, like, any kind of working relationship with, like, I don't think we've been talking about it a bit recently about kind of throwing people together into like directing duos.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard thing to do if people have never worked together. Like the first couple of times you do it, it's delicate, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure if I could make a film with someone else.
No, I'm not sure I could either. We kind of tiptoed our way in as well, wasn't it? It was like, I suppose it was being at art school allowed that a little bit, because you're very much making your own thing, and you have a lot of space and a lot of time and all the facilities to kind of, look over each other's shoulder and start talking about it. It's like, it happened quite gradually in that way.
People have mentioned this because I've occasionally worked with other folk, and it's like, just helping out. And it's like, it's such a great thing to have someone else to, make work with. Maybe if you're not doing it all the time or whatever. We are really lucky like that, because it must be really hard doing it totally on your own.
Imagine it, yeah.
Another bit of advice would be like, find, I don't know, be open-minded to work with someone, team up with someone. And
I think that's it. And I think, like, find someone, and again, they don't have to be in the same type, making the same kind of animation.
No, not at all.
I think it might, so you don't need to don't go looking for a collaborator that has a certain skill set. It's just someone whose mind you trust, and who trusts you, who you have an understanding with. That's a great thing. And I think, I think me and Will's working relationship has been an evolving thing as well. It's like, when you were saying it must be so hard being on your own, making something, that must be hard, but it must also get hellish when you're in a partnership where you're always making things together. That must get quite suffocating too. The fact that we've been able to make our own things and go and do things separately, and then we keep coming back together. It's like, it keeps it fresh, it keeps it interesting,
That's a really good point.
Yeah, because I guess after directing something with someone, I guess you are making compromises, even if you're both trying to drive the project in the same direction. Like, I think on every project you concede at least one thing to the other person, because you're like, well, they let me add that one, I'll let them add that one, or whatever. But I think coming together and making stuff with people, it gives you a different result. Like, I think your work together is different than when you work separately, and
completely.
And I think that's interesting. And like, even like me and Sam directed something for the first time last year together, and we haven't talked since. Yeah, this is the first time I've seen him.
First time we hung out.
But we both made a project that we both never made something like that before, and the result is interesting. You know what I mean? Like, and I think
it's different than what either of us would have done.
Yeah, or me and Max would have done, or me and Wes would have done. And I think, like, kind of reconfiguring, it's like ingredients almost, that you're putting together, and you're going to get a different kind of like recipe at the end of it.
It's interesting, actually, because in our longer film, it's largely about mine and Ainslie's creative relationship. Like,
which film? Sorry,
the longer film, a cat called that we're gonna release soonish. Like, it really is. I'd love you to see it when it's ready, because it's like, it's really about that. Like we have a supervising editor at the moment, and he's like, it's originally about your mom, and originally about cancer and dealing with this difficult thing and not communicating with family. It's really kind of about your creative relationship with Ainsley. It is, and it's hard, actually, sometimes. It's tense, but like really important. And I think, hopefully, narratively, it makes sense.
How like so the last like year and a half has obviously been like pretty mad. Like how much has that changed stuff for you guys in the way that you work and stuff? Has it been like a huge thing, or is it kind of just about the same?
I think it's been quite reassuring in a way. I think it's been a bit of a lifeline, actually. Like we've spoken pretty regularly on Skype, and there's a blurry line between what is work and what is just talking shit to each other and having a laugh, you know. And I really like that. I think that's quite important. Because often just because it makes me not that, you know, I wouldn't like to think that I have to justify the time I spend with Will by thinking, oh, I'm kind of working. But often just when we're hanging out and having a laugh, that's when we come up with a little thing that's interesting or funny. And then months or years later, we'll be faced with some creative problem, and it'll be like, oh, this, you know, that idea will suddenly be useful and relevant. And so like the last year and a half, it's kind of said to me that, like, you know, I mean, we were separated anyway. I was living in Edinburgh until 2.5 years ago, and then I moved to Newcastle. But the last year and a half, you know, we speak on Skype regularly, and it's like the distance kind of in lockdown kind of hasn't stifled things that much.
No. And to be honest, we've been sort of working on Shackle the whole time, really, because it was delayed heavily because of COVID. But like, you know, we are obviously very good friends, but there's, you know, there was always like an anchor of like, well, we need to organize this, we need to get batteries, we need to make that thing. So like, we're always kind of like got a couple of productions that we're kind of doing, you know, like, so yeah, I think it's been okay, actually. Reassuring was the word you used, was it, Ains?
Yeah.
That's probably the right one for me too. I've effectively retrained in another software, so I feel great. So like, so yeah, I found it very similar. It's been very similar for, I think, I don't know what other animators think, but like, you're kind of used to being on your own and working away. You know, it's like I've just been able to do that, and animation hasn't stopped, so we've still managed to earn a living. So pretty lucky as well. That would be the other one.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think I was so terrified when COVID hit that like business that we just spent all this time trying to just get off the ground was just going to crumble. Like, and it seems to have, you know, kept going, and in a time when so many people have been struggling. I can't believe we picked an industry that was somewhat pandemic proof.
Yeah, totally.
Completely lucky.
I'm so interested. I feel like I want to do one of these the other way around. Like, I'm so intrigued by, like, because, you know, there's so much between Will and I that goes on that I can't imagine how you get. What is it, 5 of you?
6 partners, and 20 permanent staff.
Yeah, I think
it's big.
It's mad.
Yeah.
I don't know how are you all in? We can't get into this now. Maybe this is another one.
Too late. I'm all in. All the chips are in.
Can you do a special, please, where you get everyone who you've Zoomed, and then we all just ask you questions?
Just shout at us.
Yeah, if you want to do a podcast, you can do one. and invite us in on it.
We'll do a one-off with the live.
It would be a bit weird for us to like organize a podcast and just talk about ourselves the whole time.
Yeah,
it's true.
I'm interested to know, though, you know, like the 6 of you, how you make it work. How do you have consensus? How do you make decisions?
That's so foreign for me.
Yeah,
you know, for us, like, God,
it's interesting. Yeah,
like we're so used to our 2 of us, you know.
To be honest with you, like my feeling is I find it easier because, like, what you were saying about that you don't always work together. Like you like directing something together with somebody is this really intense relationship, and you can like have this, you know, intense relationship, and then you can have this other intense relationship, and it's like, you know, you're sort of you're sort of spreading your time with different people and different dynamics and kind of mixing it up, as you guys say. So
we don't direct as a unit. Like we're
No,
not like
no,
6 directors.
it's
Like,
always one.
No,
or
I know
two.
that. But like even just like as a company, like deciding how you organize yourselves and what you're going to do and who's going to do what.
that's why we have people like Will, who are producers, who just run the shop. Like a lot of credit goes to like
For sure.
the staff that we have here, you know.
I think also it's just that thing about, you know, you guys were talking about how long it takes to build up a relationship and trust and all that kind of stuff. Like definitely at the beginning there was a lot of like people pointed in different directions, and gradually over the years we've sort of, I think, started pointing in the same direction, and that you know your differences you kind of start to understand, and you sort of like take them in your stride and all of that.
I think also when we started, it was not the easiest way to start a company. So there was a bit of a kind of like, oh, we're all in it together, guys. We've got to make this work, you know, like, and so that kind of pulled us together, I think, you know, because we just all wanted to succeed, you know, in what we were trying to accomplish. And like when you're making a film, it's like, you need to get this film finished. Like you've been making it for 8 years. Like there's a bond. That film has brought you guys together in a bond. And you will see it to the end, even if it takes you another 2 years. I know you said it's going to be finished at the end of next year, but I believe that however many months or years or days are left, you are finishing in that. And I think that kind of bond is what drives you forward, you know?
Yeah, well, you're doing it all right with the line. The stuff's fucking wicked.
It's pretty.
Thank you so much.
It's super special. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
How can you always be doing cool shit?
Feels like that now. It didn't feel like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like that.
Well, do you have anything else you wanted to talk to these guys about?
I feel like I did have a question. I guess like just from a kind of perspective of film funding, I guess they're like, I mean, I think everyone who gets into animation wants to make their own stuff, you know, like, or that motivated them initially. Like, and I guess you guys are kind of really successful at doing that and making shorts and doing your own stuff and getting funding. What advice would you have to people, you know, coming up behind us who want to make, or coming up behind you who want to make short films and acquire funding? Is there any schemes that you recommend?
I mean, this would be good advice for us as well, because we've literally
we've never done it
successfully for anything before. So
well, you know what, we're very lucky in that we're in a small pool up in Scotland, and Scotland ain't that big, and you know, we did both live here until quite recently. It must be so hard to get funding down in London. Like you know, I don't know what the answer to the question is about.
So does all your money come from the Scottish film industry, or
no, you see, and again, we don't there isn't a huge amount, I don't think. Like, we've had funding for a short, but it, you know, in the region of like, I think Monkey 30 grand?
Less, I think it was 20.
25 or something. I can't remember. We weren't producing that, it was Cam, but you know, and that, you know, that evaporated. But again, super delighted that we got that. But like, that was a scheme of 5 films, I think, you know, in a small pool up in Scotland. To get funding elsewhere, I don't know. It's a really hard question to answer.
Okay.
I think this. Okay, what am I going to say? I think finding a producer is super important. Like, we're doing some theatre work with our friend Martin Green. He has a great producer, and he can find money kind of anywhere. With, like, you know, he'll go to Arts Council England, and he'll go to some technology fund that the British Council are running. You know, he's really got his eye on that, and that's how his brain's wired. And that's, you know, he's not doing the creative thing. He's going and he's a producer, finding the cash for it. We are in a fortunate position that we know each other so well. I'm the perfect producer for Ainslie because we know each other inside out, and I know what he needs. You know, so in a way, we got our funding because we're a great team, or we seem like a great team, because who else, like no one else, it's like the best team for what we need to do because we've got it, we've got experience. So I guess advice would be like, maybe just to really try and find a producer that really gets you, or collaborate with someone who you don't be on your own, because it'll be very difficult.
I would also encourage people to think about their pitches as like a piece of art in itself. Like you don't need to have everything figured out. All you need to do is to make people feel interested. And like, so if you make a film that's like really comes from you and only you could make, and try and think of it like a piece of theater, like your pitch, try and make it like, just try and make it interesting, compelling, and like intrigue, just build intrigue so that people are looking at it are like, that person definitely has to make that film and I want to see what they're going to make. You know,
I think that is important. I like that. I love that sentiment of, you know, showing a film that only you could make, you know, like, because that's ultimately what we want to hear is voices.
Yeah, particularly in short film as well, because even when you get funding, you're not going to come out at the end with a lot of money, and it's not going to go on to make a lot of money. So all you can really be doing is like refining your voice as an artist and discovering things about the art form. Like you're practicing in a way. And I don't like saying that, because that diminishes short film and makes you say you're just practicing to make features. And I don't think that. But my point is, you know, you're not going to be financially rewarded in any way, even when you get funding for the film.
That's a really good point. And the only thing I would add is that we are all, you know, you guys as well, we're all kind of like got a bit of, you know, people knowing who we were and enjoying our work because we were doing things because we just had to. You know, like we all made films for no money, and that's really rewarding too. And there's a good point in, we get money for a short, but it's not a lot, really.
No, I don't let it get in the way either. It makes me so sad when I see like artists and filmmakers going like, oh, I know I was going to make this film, and then but I can't get any funding.
Yeah.
So that's
two rejections from film festival today. Everyone hears the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? You hear the good stuff goes out, but it's like also you'll not get in and you'll not get funding, and it shouldn't stop you.
No.
I just funding for half-heart.
No. And like we were saying before, it's like sometimes the more money you get, it doesn't necessarily get you a better product. Sometimes it's like, if you can't get funding, just find a way, particularly with short films. Like some of the best ones are made so cheap. Like maybe by making it cheaper and cheaper, it's like the film will actually be better for it. You know, STEM was made for £5,000, and you know, that's great. And I got that money from Puppet Animation Scotland. That's anybody in Scotland, I would point them towards Puppet Animation Scotland. They're great. Okay. And really it was £5,000, which just gave me like a few months to go, okay, I'm just going to be in this room for a few months and make a little film. So don't be scared.
What you wanted to do, you know, with passion, and, you know, like you said, like work on your pitch and this is what I want to do. And then that's infectious, you know, and you'll get supported in some way, even with advice. That pushes you on, you know?
Great. Well, thank you for being so generous with your time. And
yeah, thanks guys. I know it's late.
And and
Pleasure.
knowledge, and it's been such a pleasure to properly get to sit down and talk with you, man. I hope we get an opportunity to be face to face and have a few drinks together, man.
Oh yeah, really look forward to that.
Well, look after yourselves.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing this the
can't
film.
wait.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Both of them,
2025.
Shackles and Bob.
Yeah.
2022, sorry, it's 2022.
Yeah, hopefully
Alright.
it's 2025.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.
Take care,
Have a
guys.
nice
Good
evening,
evening,
guys.
guys.
Bye. Thanks,
Take care
everyone.
yourselves.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Will and Ainslie. I just want to take this opportunity to thank them for their time and generosity, like with how candidly they spoke about their processes and how they go about film funding. I also want to thank Jordan McGarry from the BFI Network, who got in touch with us about wanting to see if we wanted to do these podcasts again and kindly funding them through the BFI Network. For those of you who don't know, the BFI Network is a national lottery funded institution who have always supported filmmakers in both animation and live action, and they have a fund that's open twice a year where you can get film funding to make some short films. You can find out information about that via the website, which is network.bfi.org.uk. We'll post that link below in the description, as well as their social media handles where you can find more information about who they are and what they do.
And if you want to hear any more about us, we run an animation studio in London called The Line. If you go to www.thelineanimation.com, you can find a portfolio of all of our work there, and you can find links to all our socials as well. Just wanted to say a huge thanks again to Will and Ainslie for their time. It was really, really appreciated. Yeah, you guys were extremely generous, and I learned a lot. So thanks again.
Cheers for watching. See you next time.
Take care, guys.